Legendary beat. Legendary beat. Legendary beat. Legendary beat.
I get girl for my yard, we get big back away, they make me feel amazing, girl. I get one way they give me things.
Even before the onset of COVID-19, Kenya's education system was at a crossroad. From government's implementation of the competency-based curriculum, CBC, universities' financial issues, schools handling 100% transition policy, and teacher-to-student ratio challenges. Then COVID-19 struck.
We have suspended learning in all our education institutions.
And the indefinite closure of schools led to additional challenges, including the uncertainty in the school calendar, homeschooling becoming a massive shock to parents, inadequate access to learning material, and inequalities in the access to technology to facilitate learning. On Thursday, 21st May 2020, the Nation Media Group will hold a live virtual Nation Leadership Forum from 7:30 p.m. on NTV. With the help of a panel of experts, it shall delve into the impact of COVID-19 on the education sector and what this means to millions of students who now find themselves facing an uncertain future. Nation Leadership Forum. Engaging society, impacting the nation.
Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka. Sona moja ina aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
I will never forget the day all our lives changed forever.
It's now a reality we will all face. In the midst of a global, unprecedented crisis.
But even in the face of this challenge, during these extraordinary times, we've chosen to do more than ever. What we do is not about us. It's about the people who rely on us every day. It's about keeping customers safe while giving them everything they need most at a price they can afford. Because that is our duty. We are always here for you, and we shall proudly serve every day.
Nawa mikono kwa sekunde 20 kama Elmo.
This is Fact Finder from the BBC.
They speak about Ebola. You may see people there saying that it is a business from outside these countries.
We'll tell you how misinformation is keeping Ebola patients away from clinics and driving the numbers of infection.
How did Nigeria go polio-free for 3 years? We went digging for the facts.
And former Ghanaian President Jerry Rawlings recounts his experience as a victim of fake news.
And we also tell you how social media posts saved a sick giraffe in a Kenyan game park.
Invest in Amani Ridge, the place of peace. Luxury you can afford. Call us today on 0790 300 300 or visit www.optivan.co.ke.
Coronavirus disease is now spreading within counties in Kenya, from person to person through contact with droplets when an infected person speaks, coughs or sneezes, or through touching contaminated surfaces and objects. Anybody with a weakened body immunity has a greater risk of contracting coronavirus disease. People living with pre-existing medical conditions such as HIV, cancer, TB, diabetes among others must adhere to their treatment to strengthen immunity and therefore should ensure they have a constant supply of necessary medicines. Contact your clinic or health facility for information on how to access treatment. Help others within your network to access adequate supply of essential medicines. Ensure that you remain connected with your local networks for any support and follow the medical guidelines provided by your health facility to prevent coronavirus. Remember to stay updated with information on coronavirus using only trusted reliable channels. For more information on COVID-19, call 719 or dial *719 hash. COVID-19 is preventable. Protect yourself, your family, and the community. This message has been brought to you by the Government of Kenya and its partners.
Legendary beat.
For my bed is final. We see baby baba now. My girl wear designer. Everything where I give I'm final. Yeah.
Hello, Mom. Hey, Carol, Mom.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How's Dad?
Your daddy is fine. Are you me? You have not sent me the money you promised.
I'm so sorry, Mama. I'm gonna do it today.
Send it now before you forget again.
Okay, no problems. I'll do it now. Check.
Are you sure?
Yes, so. And I also paid for your cable, and I'm sending you credit for this long call you're making right now.
Thank you, my son. God bless you.
All right, Mama. I love you so much. I'll speak to you later.
Legendary beat. Legendary beat. Legendary beat. Legendary beat.
I get girl for my yard, we get big back away, they make me feel amazing, girl. I get one way they give.
The National Council for Persons with Disabilities, NCPWD, encourages you to follow the ministry guidelines on COVID-19 by observing high hygiene standards. If either the person with disability or their primary caregiver experience any COVID-19 symptoms, they should isolate to further monitor the symptoms. The common symptoms for COVID-19 are high fever, headache, sore throat, coughing, and others. Any suspected cases should be reported to the Ministry of Health hotline numbers 0800 721 316 or 0729 471 414. Remember to include the person's disability if and when reporting cases of COVID-19 involving a person with disability. National Council for Persons with Disabilities. Disability rights are human rights.
This is NTV.
Right when the people yearn for only a rare show of united leadership in the face of a deadly health crisis, the country's political system is shaken, sucking for itself a fat share of attention at the expense of more urgent matters, if only for you, the regular Kenyan. It's all happening in the country's seat of power, where two burly bulls have locked horns and a third one is being accused of starting the fire. But as they settle old and new scores only way they know how, those for whom they hold positions of authority are watching in dismay at the astounding audacity of mindless timing right in the middle of battling a threat to life and all manner of burden that came with it. For others, it's life out in the cold, either by floods or demolition. It has been said that a country is not built once, as the pharaohs built the pyramids and left them there to defy eternity. A country is built every day out of certain shared basic values. But in our motherland, we build to bring down. And when those values are put into test, they often fall short at the altar of political expediency. Team Coverage Wednesday calls this noisy house to order with a surgical look at our political system and the plight of a citizenry yearning for what politics should be all about: service delivery and the betterment of human life. The top stories on NTV tonight.
tonight.
The number of cases today actually was the highest since the pandemic began at 66.
Kenya crosses the 1,000 COVID-19 patient mark, containment measures extended, and Mama Mboga are the next targets for mass testing. Plus, on the borders of mistrust, President Magufuli says he and President Kenyatta have agreed to fix the situation. Questions remain on the integrity of Kenya's testing facilities.
Na hii corona isiji kawa chanzo cha migogoro. Haiwezekani kila dereva anayekwenda huko awe na corona. Mbona hata dereva wangu yuko hapa? Hebu fungua dirisha. Wewe una corona?
We could just be having common cold caused by coronaviruses, but this particular test could label you as COVID-19 positive.
Also tonight, or debt, Treasury's sure bet to sail through the pandemic turbulence.
Equivalent of about 100 and maybe 607 billion Kenyan shilling will be for budget support.
Kenya does actually quite well in comparison to most other sub-Saharan African countries, but it still has a ways to go.
Plus, two bulls are fighting and things are falling apart and fast.
Political leaders of a certain region may decide on a certain course and decide that this is what is supposed to be done, and then they start whipping everyone else towards that course.
The center of power can no longer hold, and the grass below is bearing the brunt.
We face what is undoubtedly the biggest challenge of this generation. That is the coronavirus pandemic, which has occasioned a health, social, economic, and humanitarian crisis. We have politicians spending more time engaging in divisive politics than responding to the burning needs.
NTV Tonight with Mark Masai.
Welcome to NTV Tonight on our special coverage, team coverage Wednesday. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Flora Atieno, and the team part of our team coverage is, of course, Brenda Wanga, our features editor, and our senior political affairs reporter, Kennedy Morethi, joining us live from their living rooms. Thank you for inviting the rest of the nation, and as well as Olive Burrows. And joining me in studio, Vincent Odwor and Bridget Singana is live from Nakuru. That's team coverage coming up shortly. But first, we look at the global numbers as it stands. Globally, the infections, the coronavirus is over 5 million, with the death rate at 326,000 lives having been lost internationally. On the continent in Africa, over 95,000 infections have been registered, with the deaths of 2,963 people. And bringing it closer home, right now the cases that have been recorded in Kenya above 1,000. That's 1,029 with 50 deaths and at least 366 people who have been discharged and have recovered and are back home. Now, to the very latest as well on that, coronavirus cases in Kenya have crossed the 1,000 mark despite efforts to stem further spread of the disease. The Ministry of Health has confirmed 66 new cases, the highest recorded in 24 hours, as Mombasa and Nairobi counties continue to report more cases. Kevin Mutai also reports that the government has extended cessation of movement in and out of Old Town and Eastleigh until June 6th this year.
The number of cases today actually was the highest.
Kenya continues to battle the coronavirus pandemic as numbers of the infected continue rising. In the last 24 hours, 2,621 samples were tested, out of which 66 people turned out positive for the virus. Mombasa recorded the highest number of new cases at 30, followed by Nairobi at 26, while Kajiado reported 3 new cases. Busia, Kisii, Uasin Gishu, Nakuru, Kirinyaga, Makueni, and Meru counties had 1 positive case each.
Kenya has now hit a figure of over 1,000 positive cases to 1,029 cases. Mombasa continues to be the challenge, with 30 of those cases being in Mombasa and 26 of those cases being in Nairobi.
Nairobi and Mombasa counties are leading with the highest number of COVID-19 cases in the country, with 496 and 361 infected persons respectively. Therefore, the government is taking further measures to stem the spread of the disease.
A is an extension of the cessation of movement in and out of Eastleigh in Nairobi until Saturday, the 6th of June 2020. B, an extension of the cessation of movement in and out of Old Town, Mombasa until the 6th of June 2020. In addition to that, the malls, the eateries, restaurants are supposed to remain closed and hawking prohibited until Saturday, the 6th of June 2020.
Health authorities in Mombasa report that cases in Old Town are slowly decreasing, while at the same time expressing concern about people who left the area before it went under containment. According to the Ministry of Health, the hotspot areas have shifted to Changamwe and Likoni.
They left in a hurry to go and hide somewhere. That is why you see a surge in places like Bibi Washafi, one village, 100 houses, first tests, 11 positives. So who's helping who? You left your home in Old Town, where would have taken care of, tested you, take care of you, put you to a hospital, treat you, become negative and put you back. You ran away.
Total number of deaths still remain at 50, out of which 27 were recorded in Mombasa, while 23 cases reported in Nairobi. CS Kagwe also said that 8 people have been discharged after recovering from the disease. Kevin Mutai, NTV, Mombasa.
Meanwhile, the icy relations between Kenya and Tanzania may begin to thaw if President John Pombe Magufuli's statement is anything to go by. The Tanzanian head of state claims that he spoke to President Uhuru Kenyatta and they agreed to have the officials meet and resolve the strained relations. His statement came on the same day that one of the country's administrators accused Kenya of deliberately trying to sabotage Tanzania's tourism industry through its measures at the borders. Helen Aura with the latest on the borders of distrust and division.
The crisis at the Kenya-Tanzania border has created a case of clenched fists between the two governments as the spread of COVID-19 increases, with Kenya attributing most of the numbers to truck drivers coming from Tanzania. At the weekend, Kenya closed its borders with Tanzania, and this was not taken very well by some of the leaders in her neighbor to the southwest, some of whom vowed to have trucks from Kenya barred from entry. Kenya then dismissed these declarations, raising the heat from the borders to the capitals. In a statement Wednesday morning, and Arusha's Regional Commissioner Mrisho Gambo issued a statement where he claimed that 19 drivers from Tanzania who had been tested and declared positive by the Kenyan authorities at Namanga were retested in Dar es Salaam and tested negative. He then went in for the jugular and said that Arusha region is confident that this is a deliberate sabotage strategy designed by the Kenyan government against the tourism industry in Arusha and Tanzania at large. However, lately in the day, President John Pombe Magufuli spoke in a different tone, one of apparent reconciliation.
Tulikubaliana na Mheshimiwa Rais Kenyatta kwamba mawaziri wetu wa uchukuzi pamoja na wakuu wa mikoa, kwetu sisi Tanzania ni mkuu wa mkoa wa Mwanza, mkuu wa mkoa wa Mara, mkuu wa mkoa wa Arusha, mkuu wa mkoa wa Kilimanjaro na mkuu wa mkoa wa Tanga watakutana na wenzao mpakani na wenzao wa Kenya wajadili hili swala walimalize.
The need for regional unity in the pandemic war continues to be reiterated for the benefit of all.
And dealing with this pandemic is dependent on how all of us as East African Community member states work together.
Kenya says it will heighten security measures as well as increase the testing capacity at the border points. This comes as it received mobile laboratories from the German government, which are to be stationed at the Namanga border and another at the Naivasha dry port. The ministry says the portable labs have a capacity to test 2,000 samples a day. The government says this will hasten the testing to ease out on the backlog, and once tested, the drivers will be tested again after 14 days.
And waiting times at border points, as each country tries to be vigilant in their containment measures against the COVID-19 disease. And for this, we are grateful to our truck drivers, and we apologize and regret the inconveniences they continue to experience, because when they experience these inconveniences, it also means their families suffer in the process.
This comes as there continues to be questions on the integrity of the tests in Kenya.
Tunahitaji biashara, Wakenya nao wanahitaji biashara huko. Na hii corona isiji kawa chanzo cha migogoro. Haiwezekani kila dereva anayekwenda huko awe na corona. Mbona hata dereva wangu yuko hapa? Hebu fungua dirisha, wewe una corona.
So you could just be having common cold caused by coronaviruses, but this particular test could label you as COVID-19 positive. So that is a false positive. The first one was a false negative.
Helen Aura, NTV.
As this happens, politics is taking place, and it's actually taking center stage. That's why we're focusing on it with team coverage, because the country's expectation would be that every leader, at least every sane leader, would be trailing their attention and their focus and strength to helping us get out of this. But this is where we are at, and it's squabbles in the leadership. And now we can get to our team coverage and just turn to Brenda Wanga's first attention, where we are looking at the proper timing here of the politicians.
This endless cycle of politics from one election to the other without the country even getting a chance to have a meaningful breather to develop, to discuss development politics. And this particular one is coming at a time when this country is battling a deadly disease, and Kenyans are more worried about their households and their livelihoods. Take a look. That the country is in the grip of a global health crisis has not slowed down the endless political cycle in the country. Welcome to Kenya, where the beat of politics is always on a continuous loop from one election cycle to the next. While politics is an essential institution of society, the obsession with it is relegating everything else to the backseat.
Politics has been captured by individuals with vested interests who have altered the course of politics such that it is more of a process through which power is acquired and preserved for a privileged few and benefits a select class of people rather than the entire populace. Politics in Kenya has in reality been a raw contestation of power rather than a policy dialogue process that is at the core of any development or good governance agenda.
2 years away from the next general election, and one would be forgiven for thinking that the polling stations will be opening soon. The lines have already been drawn in the sand.
Nobody can stop reggae.
If that is the reggae they are talking about, my friends, reggae will stop.
Because if this podium is going to be
But as they settle old and new scores, those who put them in places of authority are crying out for service and foundations for a better, prosperous nation.
And even as we face what is undoubtedly the biggest challenge of this generation, that is the coronavirus pandemic, which has occasioned a health, social, economic, and humanitarian crisis, we have politicians spending more time engaging in divisive politics than responding to the burning needs of those who have employed them, those who have put them in public office.
The needs as of this moment had long been summed up in the promise of the Big Four agenda: healthcare, food security, housing, and manufacturing. But the country's healthcare system is falling short of the test in the face of a crisis, not forgetting the social security concerns that have come with it, like putting food on the table. On the housing promise, ravaging floods are sweeping away roofs of humble households and scarring lives. And if your house escapes the wrath of floods, then a wrecking ball could bring it down by way of demolition.
Sasa hizi kuna janga la corona, tunashindwa tutaenda wapi, tutaanzia wapi? Corona imesababisha hata kazi hakuna, hatuna hata hela.
We're increasingly hearing less and less of the Big Four agenda, even as the clock speedily ticks towards 2022 and seeing more of political realignments. And ideally, even as politicians regroup, I guess it is a natural process for them to do so. It should not be for the achievement of personal vested interests, but to transform the lives of the majority of Kenyans.
But the nature of our politics may not allow for the transformation of lives that many yearn for. Certainly not when for years on end, public discourse is all about who will become what in the next election and little about meaningful engagement on development. Well, that is the pulse of the nation at the moment. But in Kenya, he who pays the piper pulls the tune. My colleague Silas Apollo has been looking at this politics of convenience, and here is his report.
They were once bosom buddies, donning similar attire while making special appearances, speaking into each other's ear, or occasionally sharing jokes that only the two of them understood. But not anymore. Kenyatta has spared no effort to keep his deputy in check, ostensibly for speaking out of turn. First, it was a public tongue lashing.
Hii kijana anaitwa Ruto, unajua kila weekend anatanga kila pahali. Atakuwa anapitia hizi machorochoro. Akiona kuna kitu inaenda kona mumwambie. Si namna hiyo?
Then came the purge on dissidents within the Jubilee Party, who by extension are lieutenants of DP Ruto. Pundits have argued that the frosty relationship between Ruto and his boss was a result of the handshake between President Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga. Others, however, share the view that it's just another chapter from the politics of convenience playbook, where one forms coalitions with like-minded individuals to serve whatever the interest of the day may be, including the search for power. This may sometimes involve buying out an apparent opponent, and once the objective is achieved, one is kicked to the side.
It started off when it would seem those in the leadership of Jubilee did not understand the constitution that they came up with. Because if you look at their constitution in Article 9, where they have given the party leader a lot of powers, one of the functions they've given him, one of the roles they've given him, a cardinal role, is to unite the country by way of even seeking alliances with other political parties and coalitions.
This practice is not new, as leaders before President Kenyatta, including Odinga himself, have used it in the past. His co-principals in NASA accused him of signing a deal with President Kenyatta behind their back.
Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta has set out to unite the country, and he's not going backwards on that. If you look at him, he's been very consistent in that regard. The first thing that Ruto must accept is that is going to happen, and he should support the boss to unite the country.
Both Kenyatta and Odinga have expressed their unwavering support for the Building Bridges initiative that could possibly lead to a referendum that could see changes to the architecture of power at the top. Silas Apollo, NTV.
Well, talking about politics of convenience, this isn't entirely a strange thing for Kenyan politics. It's almost like it's ingrained in our DNA, Mark, isn't it?
Unfortunately so, Brenda Wanga. History is repeating itself. And just to be clear, with what we're just about to illustrate going down the memory lane, it's not enlisting all the vice presidents and, of course, that have been in the history of Kenya, but those who have shown the example or bad example of how presidents have mistreated their vice president and now to the deputy president. So the first things first, we look at the founding president, Jomo Kenyatta. And as vice president, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga did not agree with Jomo Kenyatta ideologically. And Kenyatta was in favor of approaching the United States and the Western Bloc for closer ties, while Odinga had called for closer ties with the People's Republic of China and the Soviet Union. Now, this eventually led to Odinga resigning as a vice president. He went on to pursue his political career by forming the Kenya People's Union. Now, turning to another term in office that was characterized by the same play that we are seeing right now, and that is with George Saitoti, the late, as the vice president. Now, he was the 6th vice president and the longest serving, that is 13 years, because there were, you'd call it 2 terms because there was a break in between, and this was from August the 31st, 2002, and to beg your pardon, we see how the crumble of the friendship between the two started. President Daniel Arap Moi fired Saitoti in a succession disagreement as he endorsed Uhuru Kenyatta. Saitoti went on to join the Rainbow Alliance, serving under President Mwai Kibaki's cabinet. He died, unfortunately, on the 10th of June 2012 in a helicopter crash in Ngong Forest area. There are no clear findings on what led to the fatal accident. Now, to another friendship, so we call it, and this was under Mwai Kibaki's leadership. And Kalonzo Musyoka became vice president in January 2008, a time of political crisis over a disputed election. The crisis led to a power-sharing agreement, as you can see here, where it led to the prime minister position being created, which Raila Odinga held between 17th April 2008 and 9th April 2013. A relationship fraught with division and complaints of sidelining from President Kibaki's side of the leadership. If you remember, nusu mkate, nusu kapet. Now, in the race for the 4th president of Kenya, Raila Odinga was joined by, among others, Kalonzo Musyoka under the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy CORD. And out of the disputed March 2013 election came the Jubilee leadership of Uhuru, which is where we find ourselves. And yes, William Ruto, the first elected deputy president of the Republic of Kenya under the 2010 constitution, but clearly, as seen, not the first to have trouble with his boss. Maybe the answer rests in the unresolved relationships that give a precedent to the next president on how to deal with his deputy. Maybe it is just a vice of the nature of the job of deputy as defined by law, where primarily the deputy president shall be the principal assistant of the president and shall deputize for the president in the execution of the president's functions, and as well as perform the functions or conferred by this constitution and any other functions of the president as the president may assign. Perhaps that's why it is the curse of number 2. And Olive Burrows also went into lengths of the instances where it's evident that the Mwananchi's view counts for very little, and that's in terms of who will be their leader. Take a listen.
Every 5 years at the break of dawn, Kenyans are content to wait their turn for the return of having their say through the ballot. This democratic ideal often a culmination, at least in Kenya's case, of a protracted campaign period, which quintessentially presents an opportunity for the contenders to make their case, but the final word should come down from the electorate, shouldn't it?
President Uhuru Kenyatta hata wachia hii nchi waizi.
Tuko tayari kwa uchaguzi. Tuko tayari serikali ivunjwe. Tuko tayari kwenda kwa debe. We enjoy 80% of the support of Kenyans. Wakimwaga ugali, tunamwaga kitoweo.
Or is the electoral process merely a formality? The electorate marionettes. Puppets dancing on the end of a string.
Political leaders of a certain region may decide on a certain cause and decide that this is what is supposed to be done, and then they start whipping everyone else to want that cause. They may decide that this is so and so who needs to be appointed or elected as a member of parliament or a member of the county assembly, and those decisions is what a majority of the people will follow.
Does that make the electorate sheep to be added to the ballot seasonally to endorse outcomes that are already a foregone conclusion?
I promise you, hiyo reggae itasimama.
Reggae is in half time. Baada ya corona, reggae itaendelea kunguruma. Nobody can stop reggae.
Politics in this country are elite controlled. And this is common for all countries that are not democratic. We cannot say that actually we are a full democracy in this country. We are not. If we were a full democracy, we would be governed by the rule of law. But we have seen many instances where we can say here the rule of law does not apply.
But can the elite be faulted for exercising a sovereignty awarded to them by the electorate at the ballot?
You know, politicians are self-interested individuals. That is what drives them. Why do you think, for example, that politicians are able to change political party membership 360 degrees? They start from here, go back to where they started. It's because they have no solid basis upon which they are put together. It is basically on the basis of interest.
The experts are viewing the proclamations on the 2022 succession as an attempt to undermine the sovereignty of the electorate and sanctity of democratic processes.
Rigging does not mean you rig the ballot. It does not mean you stuff the ballot. No. Rigging is about also how you mobilize people and people's ideas and rig them towards a certain end. The choices that people make and how you influence those choices is part of the rigging. Rigging is about how do you mobilize, how do you prevent objective running of an electoral process.
And with such reckless, audacious statements as in Kenya, leaders are not elected, they're selected, becoming louder, your free will to walk in the direction you please as a voter is slowly being hijacked.
And it's not just upon the executive. Parliament, the second arm of the government, Vincent Odor, surely needs to wake up from their deep slumber.
Mark, both houses of parliament are currently embroiled in a tug of war on house and committee leadership, with the state running the puppet. This is a house in which numerical strength works not for the people, but their own masters. Take a look.
The Kenyan parliament has come under sharp criticism for doing little to hold the executive to account, instead merely rubber stamping its decisions. With a weakened oversight role, the executive has always had its way on controversial government-sponsored bills and vetting of appointments, and in some cases, manipulation of audit reports. But even within both houses, loyalty is divided, not by party affiliation or on matters that concern the citizenry, but according to whoever pays the piper.
So that if within the executive, the president and the deputy president don't see eye to eye, then the ripple effect is that parliament is immediately required to realign its position to match either side of the divide within the executive. You have parliament that has forgotten about separation of powers in the constitution. It still imagines that parliament is an extension of the executive.
The handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga has extremely weakened the oversight role of the House, putting minority leaders James Orengo and John Mbadi, who should be leading the role as opposition, on the spot.
His ability to oversight the majority side, to oversight the executive, has been significantly weakened because he does not want to ruffle feathers. He does not want to antagonize his party leader that has declared that ODM is collaborating or cooperating with Jubilee.
Then there is the vetting process, where members rubber stamp questionable appointments, their seeming lack of qualification notwithstanding.
When the president has nominated someone, rarely do you find Parliament asserting itself and really interrogating the merits of the nominee to serve in those offices. In short, Parliament has been reduced to a rubber stamp, just to validate presidential appointments.
But when it touches close to their heart, like remuneration, members have been known to coalesce in resounding unison. Even in the face of crises as the COVID-19 pandemic, destructive floods, and general decline in livelihood among ordinary Kenyans, politics of interest still dominate the House.
There is a question of failed leadership on the part of the House leadership, the Speaker, of the National Assembly, Justin Muturi, and the Speaker of the Senate, Ken Lusaka, the Leader of Minority in the Senate, Honorable James Orengo, the Leader of Majority, as he then was, Kipchumba Murkomen, and the leadership in the National Assembly, Honorable Duale for the majority, and John Mbadi for the minority. That is a shared problem that they have.
The problem has turned the honorable chambers into a house of cards where interests supersede the collective good of those who there put them. Vincent Odur, NTV.
That is just the first part of team coverage tonight. There is still more. Mark?
Sintodor, we've mentioned House of Cards, and if people are keen on that, the Netflix series, someone might say the class of politics here is nowhere close to that acted series, House of Cards, on Netflix. Probably worth something. They should probably check it out and copy one or two things. I mean, our realities are different, but maybe something else we're failing at is the lack of ideologies in our politics. And our senior political affairs reporter, Kennedy Moredi, will be telling us more about that after the break, as well as Bridget Sngana, the concerns of division from what's happening from the politicians. It's quite sad, really. We'll be back with that. Stay with us.
Oya ni aje, mimi ndo Jonte Fresh. Mimi ndio nimetambulika hii Gikomba yote sekta ya manguo. Jumio transform nguo ordinary za mtush zenye ziuka mna hii harufu ya bail into the freshest igi kosi yote. Siri ni hii real mpya ya pink. Na kusho mtush zinang'ara kung'ara kushinda kamera. So clean, so fresh. Ma customer unaisana na hii story. Ninatumia aerial touch of down mpya tu.
Birthday party.
Birthday party.
Birthday party. Birthday party.
Are we not invited?
We have gifts.
Malaria.
Mommy, best.
Run.
Oh, die.
Party.
Compared to an ordinary spray, Mortein Doom Power Guard kills disease-causing pests instantly. Mortein Doom Power Guard.
John suffers from indigestion. His twin James suffers from heartburn. Sometimes it's the other way around or both. That's why they use Gaviscon Double Action. It soothes within 3 minutes and lasts up to 4 hours. For double relief from heartburn and indigestion, Gaviscon Double Action. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Buy fresh mboga, vegetables, foodstuffs, meat products, bakery products, detergents, all clothing and footwear, books, board games, gym accessories, households and cookery online. Kindly visit tuskys.dpo.store to place an order and get delivered to your doorstep.
The risk of illness causing germs is increasing. It is believed that the coronavirus can remain on surfaces in your home for up to 9 days. Touching infected surfaces is one of the ways in which germs spread. Regularly disinfect your floors, countertops, and kitchen surfaces with bleach. And use an effective toilet cleaner inside and outside your toilet bowl. This message is brought to you by Medifacts, JIC, and HAPIC.
This is Fact Finder from the BBC.
They speak about Ebola. You may see people there saying that it is a business from outside these countries.
We'll tell you how misinformation is keeping Ebola patients away from clinics and driving the numbers of infection.
How did Nigeria go polio-free for 3 years? We went digging for the facts.
And former Ghanaian President Jerry Rawlings recounts his experience as a victim of fake news.
And we also tell you how social media posts saved a sick giraffe in a Kenyan game park.
Invest in Amani Rich, the place of peace. Luxury you can afford. Call us today on 0790 300 300 or visit www.optivan.co.ke.
NTV Tonight with Mark Masai.
I'm not actually alone on NTV team coverage. Welcome back on political landscape of our country. That's the focus. And next is our senior political affairs reporter, Kennedy Moreithi. Kennedy, it all starts right from the political parties that sponsor these leaders, doesn't it?
Well, a very good evening to you, Mark. And that is a very important question that you've raised with regards to where it all starts. And one of the questions that has actually come up is the question of ideologies when it comes to political parties. And are these personal properties, what are really they? Do they even have any ideology? This is a story that I prepared earlier today, and probably we could watch and probably discuss after it.
It is now like a hobby for politicians to create new vehicles when elections approach. The players have always been the same, just circulating around different fields that rarely aspire any values.
Politicians are court poets, and they'll always try to create the impression that they are guided and propelled by the people to seek whatever alliance, to seek whatever seat. But what we know is that politicians work in their own selfish interests.
As one once said, there are no permanent enemies in politics, just interests. It is those interests that have often determined how politicians coalesce, as best exemplified in the tiff between President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy, William Ruto.
They are really working on this every day to flush the first wife of Uhuru Kenyatta in the name of William Ruto out of the president's bedroom. Once William Ruto will be out of Uhuru's bedroom, Raila Odinga will finish this government, will finish Uhuru Kenyatta.
Analysts say there is nothing new under the sun to continue holding the two together in the Jubilee Party, as both have divergent interests, thus the acrimonious turn of events.
The deputy president did not read the signs of the times. I think the president had been uncomfortable for quite some time. When a president stands up and says, look at this young man called Ruto, yana tanga, you must sit back and reflect.
The Uhuru-Ruto breakup has thrust to the fore queries over the running of political parties in the country, where whoever holds the stick calls the shots, and the rest have to toe the line or hit the highway.
If you are the leader of a clique or a team of people or politicians who do not show any respect for your boss, and you are the deputy, then that is dangerous.
If William Ruto will ever be president of Kenya, chances are will be after other successive elections, but not the 2022 elections, given by the direct intention and the evident schemes here being stage managed by Uhuru Kenyatta himself.
In ODM, the second largest party, Raila Odinga's word is said to be low. Narok Senator Ledama Olekina can attest to this after being edged out of the County Public Accounts and Investments Committee despite being elected chairperson.
James Orengo told me that he's following strict instructions from the party leader, that I should not be party to that committee.
There are 69 registered political parties in the country, and many more could spring up as we approach the 2022. However, opinion is divided on whether they subscribe to any philosophical ideology, as many believe they are just vehicles of convenience.
For many decades now, from the advent of multi-party politics in Kenya, we have seen a steady evolution of Kenya's democracy. Sadly, we have not seen corresponding evolution of political parties in Kenya. And that is why political parties in Kenya remain instruments for acquisition of power.
The analysts hold a firm belief that DP Ruto may well be on his way out of Jubilee and the prospect of a new party not too far.
He has a chance to dream again. He has a chance to plan again. He has a chance to reinvent himself. He has a chance to rebrand himself.
In politics, retreating and strategizing has really never been a sign of cowardice.
Our option number 1 is Jubilee, our option number 2 is Jubilee, our option number 3 is Jubilee. So we don't have any other party that we're looking at. We are not negotiating with any other party.
Well, Mark, we start off from where Caleb Kositany, the Member of Parliament for Soi, has actually left. That they are saying that their option number 1 is Jubilee, option number 2 is Jubilee, and option number 3 is Jubilee. This is quite an interesting view, coming at a time when there is actually a spirited push to push the deputy president out of the ruling party, and that is Jubilee. And President Uhuru Kenyatta has actually gone ahead to make sure that he's consolidating power within himself. Some of the bites that we did not also put on air with regards to this political analyst is that they are saying that President Uhuru Kenyatta is now asserting his power as the Supremo in Jubilee and wants to be that person that they have always been asking. There have been questions whereby President Uhuru Kenyatta has not been as assertive as he should be. And also the political parties in the country, what has been their space? And this question has actually come up one too many times. And with regards to this and what is happening, Mark, then there is that question that has been posed. But also the place of the political parties registrar in this country has also been put into question. Mark, one thing that also our viewers need to know is for the longest time, the position of the political parties registrar has been put as an acting position. It is only about 2 weeks ago that that position was advertised. And whether the current occupant of that position is going to be given that position is actually something that you can wait for. So political parties have been very much of personal properties, but it is something that we want to look at. And going into the future, are they vehicles? Are they going to be spirited into something that Kenyans can look forward into, like what has happened in South Africa? But right now, I have my colleague in Nakuru, that is Bridget Ngana, who's going to give us another view of all these stories.
Yes, Kennedy. And the thing about knowing rules is finding acceptable ways to break them. And that is exactly what our political leaders are doing whenever they come across or they give out speeches that are borderline incitement to violence. But this is a country where the boundary of what is incitement is clearly a very blurred line.
With the 2022 general elections in the offing, the political climate in the country is simmering up if recent proceedings in the ruling party are anything to go by. The divergent political views among leaders from both sides of the divide seem to be brewing a cocktail of a potential repeat of the dark period more than a decade ago. But the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, accused on slacking on the job, insists it is in control.
Even if we have not achieved 100% tolerance among the people of Kenya, we have some level of tolerance because of the lessons the people learned. And if you hear people talking today, you will hear them say that we do not want to see what we saw in 2007.
NCIC maintains that past summons and court cases involving political leaders have served as a deterrent, despite none being held culpable to date.
Even if you see the politicians spew hate speech everywhere, they do it sometimes with caution. And they do it with the knowledge that there is a commission that will come after them for the violence or the conflict that they may incite people to. So the commission has ensured that Kenya is relatively peaceful. And that is the peace we are enjoying today, despite the little challenges that we face day in, day out.
Even the people who fuel ethnicity and wrong tribalism, nobody has ever been taken anywhere. It has been people will say words and they will go to court and they will come out tomorrow and then they will repeat it again. And every time politician will come up with the word, I was misquoted. And they don't know even if you are misquoted, it burns a nation down.
The church has once again gone silent while the political leaders whip up emotions with reckless talk and further widening the rift already existent in our state of union.
The church should now wake up and start speaking. When we hear a tribe gathering somewhere to defend one of their own, a church should come up and say, no, we are not taking that. We want Kenya. We want people to speak about any leader as a leader of Kenya, not as a leader from a tribe or a part of the country, because this country is one. And as a church, when we missed that last time, we could not bring people together.
NCIC is now proposing a review of the Evidence Act that would permit the admission of video evidence in court, in the hope that it will someday convict the leaders who sow seeds of discord among countrymen and women.
We did seek the views of the Mwananchi across the country on their feeling about the current political climate in the country in this time of a global pandemic, and this is what they had to say.
Sasa siasa inaendelea kwa hii Kenya yetu. Naona si mbaya vile. Ni wanasiasa wamesohea.
Kwa saa hizi sio wakati wa kupiga politics. It is time to fight with the virus.
Viongozi wetu waungane, wafikiri njia ya kumaliza hii COVID. Sio kusema sijui nani ametoka wapi, sijui nani anatupa sisi. Ni Kenya ni moja.
The political situation in the country is misplaced. There are so many people who are languishing in poverty in the country, of whom the government should focus.
The president should lead, and also the political class should lead by ensuring that we have a better country.
Our people back have no food. There's no food since working hours have been cut down. Some people have been laid off. They do not have money.
Tunapitia mambo gumu sana, COVID-19 inatusumbua. So unapata inaleta mgawanyo sana kwanza. Sasa hatufai kuwa tunagawanya, yani sasa tunafaa kuwa tunashikana.
Na kuna landslide, kuna magonjwa, kuna wengine hawana ya kukula. So tunauliza, hii serikali itaanza kupigana, hata kama ni seneta wetu, ataanza kupigana na venye corona iko, ama ataanza kupigana na landslide, ama ataanza na kidure.
Wananchi wanataka hiyo sabuni ya kuoga, wanataka maji, wanataka sanitizer, wanataka hata kitu ya kuweka kwa mdomo.
As a person, I would also like to support and appreciate the efforts that the president has taken in streamlining the government's work, because we've seen in the recent past that there's been a lot of politics. That every other day we are waking up to politics, but the move that the president has taken to streamline activities in the government and to streamline the government's work, that is something that we really commend, and we pray that the same continues.
Lakini kwa hali ya siasa sasa hii tunaona tuendi mzuri. Kwa hiyo tulipoingia kwa siasa kulikuwa na mrengo ngapi? Mrengo mbili. 2 horses. Lakini sasa tukiangalia pale naona imegawanyika. Kwa hivyo hakuna usalama.
Johnny Carson from US alituambia choices ina consequences. Alipotuambia tukiwa tutaweka Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta na Ruto tutakuwa na shida, na tumeona kama tuko na shida kweli.
Team coverage for tonight, and from the heart of the Rift Valley, and I'll hand you over to Mark Masai.
All right, thank you very much, Bridget Sngana, as well as the rest. That is Kennedy Moreithi, Olive Burrows, Brenda Wanga, Vincent Odwor for that team coverage. Also, of course, behind the scenes, Edmund Nyabola putting this together. And still on the same breath, that is politics, what to expect tomorrow. The shame of the rich and the powerful stealing from the poor and the vulnerable is laid bare in a report that links deposits in offshore accounts in tax havens to disbursements by the World Bank. In your Daily Nation tomorrow, read about why Kenya is topping the roll of shame, coming second only to Jordan. Plus, why Jubilee wants Kindiki out. The Deputy Speaker has a window to resign and save face before special sitting on the Senate on Friday ejects him. The party accuses him of 2 unforgivable acts of commission and omission. Don't miss your copy of the Daily Nation tomorrow. With 50 minutes past the hour, we take a break. Business News is up next.
Can you tell Kinyanjui to come to my office immediately? Good morning. Good morning. Mimi sipendi unapanguza floor. Hiyo dust uache hapa kwa meza. Clean up. Kinyanjui, this is a problem, eh? Next time uende ununue selector yako, utengeneze sandwich zako, uachane na sandwich za boss.
Selector. The difference is in the taste.
Hii uende weke kwa ile githeri yako, eh?
Do
your gums hurt? Yeah. Does your toothpaste contain sage, eucalyptus, myrrh, chamomile? All that in one toothpaste? Yes, try Colgate Herbal. Colgate Herbal contains nature's best herbs and Colgate's fluoride technology to give you strong teeth and healthy gums. Ah, Colgate Herbal. Let's go. Colgate Herbal for strong teeth and healthy gums naturally.
Selena!
Toto, where's mommy?
Today's a toilet day.
What? Oh.
Selena!
Toilet day?
Tomorrow we're hosting a party and it's a matter of my reputation.
It's a toilet, not a white shirt. Even if you spend your entire day cleaning with bleach and detergent, it still won't be party ready.
Impossible.
Challenge. Harpic 10X. Even if you use bleach and detergent 10 times, they won't give you the same sparkling clean toilet that Harpic 10X will give you.
Wow!
Harpic 10X. Harpic, Kenya's #1 toilet cleaner.
I'm here today to give you a few tips about how we're able to flatten the curve and curb the spread of this virus. Ensure you wash your hands as often as possible with soap and running water. Stay at home to protect yourself, your family and your loved ones. If you have to leave the house, ensure you wear a mask. And if you live with small kids, ensure they wear the mask too. While outside there, ensure you keep your social distance, which is 1.5 meters as recommended. In these difficult times, we are calling on brands and businesses to do good and give back. As a business, avail your resources and time to the less fortunate and help curb the spread of the virus.
Welcome back, and first on the business desk, just a fortnight after the International Monetary Fund approved a 74 billion shilling loan for Kenya, the World Bank has approved a 107 billion shilling concessional loan through the Development Policy Operation Framework. Julian Samboko breaks down the details of the loan facility.
The credit line from the Bretton Woods Institution, the largest ever development policy operation financing extended by the World Bank to Kenya, comes less than a year after the World Bank board approved an 80 billion shilling loan to support the government of Kenya's reforms to enhance inclusive growth, accelerate poverty reduction, and achieve its Vision 2030 objective of becoming a middle-income, industrialized country. According to the World Bank, 75% of the new loan has been sourced from the International Development Association, with the remaining 25% drawn from the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development.
The IDA portion, which is the bulk of it, 750 million out of this 1 billion is IDA terms. That is a 30-year repayment period, a 5-year grace period, and an interest rate of 1.35%.
The funding from the World Bank comes at a time when Kenya is expected to forgo tax revenue to the tune of 172 billion shillings, owing to the raft of tax cuts extended by the government as a way aimed at mitigating the adverse effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Treasury CS Ukuriatani says this new liquidity injection will be critical in providing budget support.
This $1 billion, equivalent of about 100 and maybe 607 billion Kenyan shilling, will be for budget support, including supporting the vulnerable segment in the society, like the elderly and the rest, including people who have been seriously affected by this pandemic. They are all within the framework of the budget.
The World Bank has also indicated that it is not worried about Kenya's debt position, despite the rising number of loans which are being secured to help combat COVID-19. The outgoing country director, Carlo Felipe Jaramillo, says Kenya is largely tapping into concessional financing.
Kenya does actually quite well in comparison to most other sub-Saharan African countries, but it still has a ways to go if it wants to measure its practices against, say, the majority of middle-income countries that manage significant amounts of debt.
On Tuesday this week, The National Treasury indicated that President Uhuru Kenyatta had approved expenditure of an additional 54 billion shillings as part of the country's post-COVID-19 economic stimulus package. Julian Amboko, NTV.
A new reform set to bring sweeping changes to the agriculture sector. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya says the government will cease having a heavy hand in the national maize supply chain and instead let the private sector take charge. The CS hopes the move will break down the stranglehold of cartels and help promote increased output by farmers to ensure food security. Lilian Kiarie reports.
When the Ministry of Finance established the 2.2 billion shilling strategic food reserve 5 years ago, the plan was to promote and help ensure food security. The Strategic Food Reserve, or SFR, and the National Cereals and Produce Board, NCPB, have however had an acrimonious relationship rather than the mutually beneficial relationship that had been envisioned, especially in relation to farmers' welfare. Such is the extent of the deplorable state of affairs at the SFR that plans are underway to have it disbanded before the end of the year. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya is now seeking to introduce radical changes to the way the government deals with maize and fertilizer.
Henceforth, the government will not directly buy, sell maize, or set prices of maize. The government will no longer purchase, distribute, or sell, or set prices of fertilizer, seeds, or any farm inputs.
Kenya consumes an average of 50 million bags of maize each year. Her national granary, which is under the NCPB, only has a capacity to store a fraction of that.
So how can a store of 2 million make you food secure? It's a lie. Let us not continue perpetuating that lie.
Going forward, maize farmers will openly trade their produce through a warehouse receipt system. The system is designed to prevent farmers from selling their produce immediately after harvest, when prices are usually depressed, by enabling them to deposit their commodities in a certified warehouse. The warehouse will then issue them with a receipt that serves as a document of title. Munya says that through the warehouse receipt system, farmers should be able to use their produce as security for short-term credit.
To separate the national food reserve functions from the commercial ventures, NCPB will restructure to create the NCPB Trading Division.
CS Munya has also said that starting September this year, the Agriculture and Food Authority, in collaboration with counties, will start the registration of farmers, dealers and primary warehouses for planning purposes. Lilian Kiarie, NTV.
I like how she puts it, very matter-of-factly. Kenya Airways subsidiary Jambojet has extended its suspension of operations up to 7th June 2020. The airline is encouraging passengers who were scheduled to travel in the period up to the 7th of June to consider rescheduling their travel to a later date at no extra cost. The extension of the suspension is in line with the government's order for the cessation of movement into and out of the airline's key markets along the coastal belt. The government has disallowed the movement of persons into and out of the Nairobi metropolitan area, Mombasa, Kilifi, Kwale and Mandera, making it counterproductive for Jambojet to continue with operations to other destinations. The extension of the suspension by Jambojet points to the crippling extent of the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on airlines both locally and internationally. To keep planes parked but ready for use later is still another expensive undertaking. Something else to look forward to tomorrow in your dailies. The prices of used luxury cars are set to rise significantly. This is after Kenya Revenue Authority proposed new base rates for charging duties on motor vehicle imports. Hence, the tax charge on such vehicles will go up considerably. For this and more business news, get your copy of the Business Daily tomorrow. And that's it from the business desk. More after the break.
At Kenya Breweries Limited, we work with over 500 barley farmers in Kenya to locally source 80% of raw materials and grow local businesses to produce quality products. In the last financial year, we paid over 1 billion shillings to barley farmers. Our pride lies in uplifting the lives of farmers as we grow value together.
Credit to you if you stay at home. If you must shop online, use your NCBA credit card. Stay home. Stay safe.
For a better tomorrow, don't forget to do the 1, 2, 3 with Colgate every night.
It's in times of great difficulty that we should always give thanks to those who are there for us. So, to all our customers who have been there for their friends, their families, those in need, as well as us, we'd like to say thanks. Thanks for staying at home and staying connected. We've got you. With an automatic upgrade on us. A little gift from our heart straight to yours.
Shop online and pay with your Visa card securely for groceries and other essentials, e-learning subscriptions, online entertainment subscriptions, as well as all other bills online. With Visa, you can make payments online using your Visa card in 3 easy steps. Simply go to the checkout page, select Visa card, enter your card information, and your purchase is securely completed. Safe is smart. Visa, everywhere you want to be. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back. A magistrate court has declined to approve the Director of Public Prosecution's application to withdraw manslaughter charges against lawyer Asa Nyakundi. The court stated that the application is based on weak grounds and that the powers of the DPP to discontinue criminal proceedings are not absolute. Asa Nyakundi is accused of shooting his son to death. The case has dragged on for months without much progress, thereby raising eyebrows even as the magistrate admitted to the existence of a circus that has dominated the entire process since inception. Meanwhile, the former Minister for Lands, Amos Kimunya, and 3 others have been acquitted by the Anti-Corruption Court over a land transfer case in Nyandarua due to lack of evidence. The magistrate found that the prosecution did not establish a solid enough case against the accused. Kimunya, who was in the land minister, in 2005, was accused of allocating a parcel of land to a private company known as Midland Limited, in which he was a director. A businessman has been charged for falsely obtaining 143 million shillings fraudulently. The first matter involves illegitimately receiving 131 million shillings from the director of Hopeland Advertising and Design Limited. The court also heard that during the same period, the accused received 12 million shillings from Eunice Gakinya from Evasion General Supplies, pretending he was able to award a tender from the Ministry of Devolution. The accused, Collins Mushera, alias Charles, denied 6 counts of fraud and was released on a cash bail of 200,000 shillings. And Kenyans have once again been called upon not to downplay the reality of the COVID-19 pandemic. This was raised by various leaders who spoke at the funeral of Bungoma Senator Moses Wetangula and Westlands MP Timothy Wanyonyi's brother, Tony Waswa Wetangula. Waswa, who was also Wanyonyi's aide, succumbed to a short illness. The farewell ceremony was conducted in line with the COVID-19 guidelines set by the Ministry of Health. Hopefully we'll be able to see some of those pictures now. The family says that the deceased had undergone COVID-19 tests, but the results are yet to be delivered. This is likely to have informed the manner in which the casket was handled, from the wrapping to the handling all the way to the grave. Social distancing was observed at the function, but the funeral numbers rule was broken as there were approximately 60 people as opposed to the maximum of 15 stipulated by law.
James,
Ni shida kwa ndugu wetu ambaye ameathirika sana, Mheshimiwa Tim Chutoni. Alikuwa kila kitu ya Mheshimiwa Tim.
Hii ugonjwa ya corona imekuja imetatanisha kila kitu, si Kenya peke yake. Ukiona Amerika wanachapwa hata kuliko sisi na hii ugonjwa. Kwa hivyo nataka kuwaomba wananchi mchukue maagizo ya serikali kikamilifu na muyafuate.
It is assumed that if you have been close to a person who has tested positive or died of the disease, then it is presumed that you are a contact and you could have been exposed to the virus. And therefore, in terms of our containment, if you have been exposed, particularly closely exposed, you must be tested and you must also be quarantined.
Condolences to the Wetangula family and the tens others affected by the COVID-19 pandemic in Kenya. We take another break. Sports News is up next.
Wahenga walisema hakuna kazi ngumu na hakuna kazi rahisi. Watu kwa ground wakauliza, umejaribu mjengo? Take a moment and think about that. Kazi ya mjengo. The fundi, arguably the literal definition of a hard worker. Imagine building all these houses to perfection. What does it take to be a good fundi? Do they dream of having such houses? How selfless. Show me the best house in the country, then show me the person whose hands built it. Show me a better definition of unsung heroes. Every Friday at 7:30 p.m. on Weekend Edition.
Even before the onset of COVID-19, Kenya's education system was at a crossroad. From government's implementation of the competency-based curriculum, CBC, universities' financial issues, schools handling 100% transition policy, and teacher-to-student ratio challenges. Then COVID-19 struck.
We have suspended learning in all our education institutions.
And the indefinite closure of schools led to additional challenges, including the uncertainty in the school calendar, homeschooling becoming a massive shock to parents, inadequate access to learning material, and inequalities in the access to technology to facilitate learning. On Thursday, 21st May 2020, the Nation Media Group will hold a live virtual Nation Leadership Forum from 7:30 p.m. on NTV. With the help of a panel of experts, it shall delve into the impact of COVID-19 on the education sector and what this means to millions of students who now find themselves facing an uncertain future.
Nation Leadership Forum. Engaging society, impacting the nation.
Learn to cough and sneeze with your pal Grover. Step 1. Realize you're about to sneeze. Step 2. Move your elbow toward your nose and mouth. Step 3. Gesundheit. 1, 2, 3. Remember to cough and sneeze into your arm or elbow and not your hands.
This is Fact Finder from the BBC.
They speak about Ebola. You may see people there saying that it is a business from outside these countries.
We'll tell you how misinformation is keeping Ebola patients away from clinics and driving the numbers of infection.
How did Nigeria go polio-free for 3 years? We went digging for the facts.
And former Ghanaian President Jerry Rawlings recounts his experience as a victim of fake news.
And we also tell you how social media posts saved a sick giraffe in a Kenyan game park.
Invest in Amani Ridge, the place of peace. Luxury you can afford. Call us today on 0790 300 300 or visit www.optivan.co.ke.
Welcome to the sports. There may be change looming in the sports ministry as media reports abroad indicate that Sports Cabinet Secretary Ambassador Amina Mohammed has become one of the favorites for the World Trade Organization's Director General post. Amina was nominated in 2013, but the post went to Brazilian Roberto Azevedo, who will be stepping down later this year. She is believed to have the necessary experience for the post, having been the country's former ambassador to the WTO, as well as having chaired the WTO's 10th Ministerial Conference in Nairobi in 2015. There is also a consensus that it is time the 25-year-old body has its first ever African head. If Amina was to bag the WTO job, then Kenya would have its fourth sports CS in the last 7 years. Iten in Elgeyo Marakwet County is known as the spiritual home of athletics. The town, famous for producing world-famous athletes, has seen international athletes flock to it for hopes of getting the formula for success. Now, some of those athletes are stuck as a result of the global COVID-19 pandemic, grounding international travel and putting a pause on the sports calendar.
A normal sight in Iten on any given day, athletes hard at work training for a life-changing opportunity. 9 weeks into the global COVID-19 pandemic, and there's a new normal. Rooms housing athletes who have overstayed their welcome line the empty streets of Iten. Grand plans from these athletes from Bahamas, Estonia, Ukraine and India now curtailed due to the coronavirus.
They had a marathon in Canada, and that got cancelled.
I was supposed to go Vienna Marathon.
Runners around the world visit this small town nestled in the Great Rift Valley to experience the Kenyan way of running. However, now their chase, literally and figuratively, has left their pockets dry due to the extended stay.
Financially, it have affected because you don't have races where you can earn some money. But in my case, I'm lucky that Estonian Olympic Committee is supporting me.
Consequently, survival skills have become necessary.
I'm living in small, okay, not so small, but small house, just a rent, buy everything by myself.
Others have braved the challenging times, choosing to look at the positive side.
So I think Kenya is for me, it's very good place.
Also, these athletes share a common anticipation of better times ahead as they one day look to jet out and reunite with family and friends.
South Africa's two-times Olympic 800 meters gold medalist Caster Semenya believes she can be a success in her new chosen distance of 200 meters. Semenya's path has virtually been forced after the Court of Arbitration for Sport allowed the IAAF to prescribe hormone-suppressing drugs for any woman with disorder of sex development, DSD, competing in the 400. To the much shorter race.
We stick to 200 no matter what. We don't care about any other decision making. We can do what we can control now, which is 200. That's a race. That's a race that we're going to focus, the entire season. We do not care about any other stuff. So 200 it is. Even if you don't, qualify for Olympics, it does not matter. What matters is we're on the track. We are there. So that's the goal. They will see a lot of me.
It does not matter, she says. It is a matter of wait and see for football fans globally in as far as the return of their favorite European leagues that have been halted by the global coronavirus pandemic, with Serie A and the English Premier League grappling with the restart plans. Burnley assistant manager Ian Woan has been named as one of the 6 positive EPL tests for coronavirus. This as Watford player Adrian Mariappa and 2 staff at the club tested positive, with training sessions after having been given the green light from the Italian government after approval of a medical protocol to be observed by the 20 Serie A clubs. Meanwhile, the Italian Sports Ministry has called for a crunch meeting on the 28th of May with football stakeholders, in which government and league chiefs will decide whether Serie A will be allowed to restart or not. And closer home, Vipers were on Wednesday declared the 2019-2020 Uganda Premier League champions after the league was called off due to COVID-19. Vipers were leading the standings by 4 points, with dethroned champions KCCA second with 5 matches left to play. Vipers, which features former Gor Mahia star Dan Serenkuma, will represent Uganda in next season's CAF Champions League. And that's it for the sports and indeed for NTV tonight. Thank you for watching our special team coverage. And as you could see, it was on the things falling apart on the political scene. And thank you for the feedback. It will be back next week. That is team coverage on another issue, of course, of importance to you, our viewer. Thank you to David Agondoa, who I baptized apologetically as Flora Atieno. Earlier in the bulletin. And yes, that's it for me. I guess I'm tired. Have yourself a good night and be safe.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
This is NTV.
I help women find independence